Welcome to the Indie Author Mentor Show. How, what, and why for the indie author. I'm Valerie Isan, author business strategist. I help panicked, paralyzed, overwhelmed authors to get clarity so they can focus on what will bring them success in their author business. Each week on the podcast, I talk about one aspect of living life the indie author way, one filled with creation, balance, connection, success, and inspiration. Let me help you grow your author business. You can find the episode show notes, a free video on getting focused, confident, and successful, and lots more information at valerieisan.com, and Isan is spelled I-H-S-A-N. And here's the show. Hello. I'm Valerie Isan. This is episode 31 of the podcast, and it is February 5th, 2020 as I record this. Our main topic today is focus and productivity without burnout. Not the roundup of my 20 books to 50K Vegas conference that I went to that I said I was going to talk about this time in my last podcast episode. And the reason I chose not to go through that is because I have been listening to lots of podcasts about the 2019 end of the year review and the 2020 yearly goals, and also several podcasts from authors that went to that conference and, what their roundup takeaway messages were. So I will save you from the redundancy of that and get on with a new topic, which is focus and productivity, which we all are interested about. But first, the personal update. I mentioned this last episode, but I want to bring it up again. And that is that this podcast show is sponsored by my patrons at patreon.com/Valerie Isan. And their support pays for the hosting of this podcast. But because of my Audacity, GarageBand, Mac challenges, I have a new and different push goal for Patreon, and that is to up my Patreon support another $29 a month. And that will pay for a podcast service called Alitu that I'm really interested in. And that is just going to create the kind of professional podcast episodes that I want to be known for and that I want to provide for you. So that's really important to me. GarageBand is not cutting it. So tell your friends about the podcast and to check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/Valerie Isan, I-H-S-A-N. And if you are already a patron of the arts and this podcast, awesome. Maybe consider upping your pledge just another $1 or so we can build up to that push goal of another $29 so that I can apply for that app. Okay, thanks so much on that little blurb there. Other news, I'm planning a launch in April of my Focus and Finish program. That's a brand new author strategy program that I have created. And it's a one-on-one 6-month coaching and accountability program that includes a customized author action plan workbook that you'll get. And if you're interested in joining the program as a founding member before the launch, then you will get a substantial discount and a really rockin' awesome bonus, if I do say so myself. So if you're interested in becoming a founding member of the program, please email me, valerie@valerieisan.com, I-H-S-A-M, and I will send you the invitation and the discount code for that. Okay, I'm reading. In fiction, I'm reading 21 Truths About Love, a novel by Matthew Dix, and its claim to fame is the entire novel is written in list format, which I find exquisite because I am a listaholic and lists make a lot of sense. And I'm only like a quarter of the way into it right now. And it's really surprising how much information and how much character building and character arc you can get through like these little miniature lists. So he's journaling, but he's writing them in the entries in list form. It's delightful. I'm really enjoying it. And in nonfiction, I'm reading Make Noise, a creator's guide to podcasting and great audio storytelling. So hopefully some new and better podcast episodes coming up. Okay, so as far as Patreon goes, I just, again, want to thank all my patrons that already support the show. It really means a lot to me, and I'm tickled that the support you already give pays for the hosting for this podcast show. And yeah, it really is, I'm touched. So thank you so much. And just the little quick plug, for as low as $1 a month, you can get a shout out on the podcast. I'll read your name out on the podcast. And you also get monthly connections videos where I'm just myself and I share something more personal than I would on this show. Today's was about aging parents and injured dogs. So, yeah, and other tiers. In fact, there's great benefits. There's coaching benefits and editing benefits that you can get for far less expensive than my regular rates. So, yeah, free books, free editing, free coaching. Check it out. You can patreon.com/Valerie Ihsan, IHSAN. And as far as a resource for you today, I recommend the book The Plot Dot by Derek Murphy. I'm also reading that book. It's nonfiction on plotting, and I think it's still free on Amazon right now. So if you want to run and get that, that is awesome. Okay, focus and productivity. Here we go. So there was a lot I wanted to say about this, and there's a lot I could say about this, but I decided to start with accountability groups. So here's what I learned about accountability groups years ago. They're awesome, and here's why. So I have some sort of mutated Wonder Woman glitch in my brain that makes me volunteer for jobs and dog adoptions and writing projects and helping friends move and just so much things all at once at the rate that would, I don't know, stagger a cheetah or something. And it always ends badly. I'm either stressed out so much that I'm eating my weight in potato chips and binge watching Netflix, or crying, or abandoning everything and just sleeping. And for me, depression is, I said that backwards, overwhelm comes before depression. So I have to be really careful and be on guard for those signs. Like if I want to sleep all the time, that means I'm overwhelmed and am headed into depression. So my biggest takeaway from being a part of accountability groups was this. If you have too much on your list, then none of it gets done. And remembering that and staying on guard for not doing too much at once is really hard for me when my default setting is, how hard could it be? I could do that. I can get that done. That won't take that long. So, yeah, I remember certain things in accountability groups that I've heard through the years said directly to me would be like, 3 things. That's all you can do. If you have too much on your list, none of it gets done. If you get those 3 things done, then cool. You can do more if you have time and energy for it, but just pick those 3 things to focus on. And when I hear that, I would cry, because I would know that I had more than 3 things. I would get like this panic, like gut visceral response. And I would hear this screaming in my brain and know, like in the Starbucks cafe as we're sitting here, and I'm crying now because I know there's 84 things to do on my list. How can I pick just 3? And yeah, I also remember hearing one time I was at a business mastermind accountability group, and I was in a different cafe. I was in a public house in Springfield, and I heard I think you should not put anything on your plate until you sell your house because, it was just taking up too much of my bandwidth. And again, I would cry because the thought of not working on my goals and dreams and, anything else that I had that I really felt, was a priority for me and super important, I couldn't do because I had to do this other thing first. And I hate being told, to prioritize. And I despise the perceived in myself, the perceived weakness in not being able to do it all. And that's where I, have heard about that superwoman complex or the Wonder Woman complex or something, because for so many years, like decades, I felt like, okay, I could do this. How hard could it be? And I would get mad at myself and hate myself because I wasn't able to get everything done that I thought I should be able to get done in a certain time period or whatever. And sure, yes, you can set the Pomodoro timer for 25 minutes and focus on one thing at a time, but can I do that 84 times, and get all the other things done on my list too? And the answer that I learn over and over and over and over again in accountability groups is no. I'm too scattered. It's never the quality work, like deep work that Cal Newport writes about, or the one thing that Gary Keller wrote about. Good book, another good resource for you. So scattershot and spaghetti on the wall methods just don't work. And you don't get things done, and you're perpetually in, or I am anyway, I'm perpetually in that putting out fires mode. And at the end of the day, answering my emails isn't nearly as satisfying and productive as writing 500 words on my manuscript or building another page on my coaching and editing website or something like that. So I have to choose one thing so that I can get all of the other things done. And I know it's counterintuitive. Seriously, I have battled this for years. So, but you know what else I do if left unchecked? I read 10 books at one time. Sometimes I think I counted one time I got up to 10 books that I was reading simultaneously. And I don't retain any of it. I never read long enough in one book to like capture the essence of it or the message or the character's emotions or the meaning of the book or whatever. And so when that happens now, which thankfully happens very infrequently, like maybe once a year, I'll find myself with, oh my God, all these books I'm reading at the same time. So I have to force myself to pick one book and read it and finish it, and then, pick the next book and read it and finish it. And my pile diminishes. And what's really cool, I feel the glory of picking up a brand new, fresh book and reading it in its entirety without guilt, because I don't have, 3 others that are waiting for me because I'm halfway through with them. And I have to get to them. So it's a much more pleasurable experience to read, one book at a time. Or in my case, I allow myself to read fiction only when I'm not working, like in the middle of the day, I'll read nonfiction, or I'll start my day reading nonfiction. Otherwise, I just want to sit on the couch and read, and I won't start working. So in my case, I guess, or in your case, if you read one fiction and one nonfiction book at a time, that is technically 2 books, but okay. So anyway, that's this kind of focus for productivity's sake is the same with your author life. So we all have hopes and dreams and goals and projects and tasks and backlog. And the coolest thing that happens when we focus on one thing at a time is getting to the end of the year and tallying up all of the things that you have accomplished. That's really awesome. And I spent most of last year running around higgledy-piggledy, like a chicken with its head cut off, and feeling way more stressed than normal. But I still managed to start a podcast and a Patreon page, adopt another dog, which is on my lap right now, looking up at me endearingly. I made important business decisions. I sold my house. I retired my massage practice. I started a new job at a bookstore that I love. And I designed a signature coaching program that hopefully will retire my husband one day and help fund our move to Costa Rica. So focus is what did that. Even just that little tiny bit that I could scrape up in between those depression-induced Netflix binges, but I still was able to accomplish things by focusing. And another thing to remember about focus is that it really can prevent burnout. And I don't know if you've ever thought about that before. It doesn't sound like it really goes together very well, but if you can pick out 1 or 2 things to focus on for a month, knowing that there's still 82 more left taunting you, you can build self-confidence and self-esteem that enable you to treat yourself with compassion and self-respect, and therefore leads you to being able to say to that list that's taunting you, yes, yes, I know you're there. I'll get to each and every one of you, but you need to wait in line like everybody else here. And that's power. That gives you space to breathe without beating yourself up. That helps you accomplish what you set out to do. That's focusing and finishing something. So if you pick one thing at a time to work on, you can't get burnout or overwhelmed because you've only got one thing in front of you right now. Blinders are beautiful things. I use them for house cleaning. And it's also why focus is why it's so important to productivity. So I hope that you were able to take something out of this short episode that resonated with you and inspired you to find that one thing that you can focus on this month. And I would love to hear what that is. So if you leave a comment in the comment section of this episode and tell me what your one thing is this month, I would really love it. It was good talking to you again. I will see you next week. Thanks for listening. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please tell your author colleagues about the Indie Author Mentor Show. And don't forget, if you want help getting focused so you can finish your writing, marketing, and publishing projects, go to ValerieEson.com and get a free video on how to start. If you want to connect, you can find me in my Facebook group, the Indie Author Mentor, or on Instagram at Valerie Eson, IHSAN. Until next time.